Okay, so we're here with Nick Burtke today, aka Pogo. Pogo, welcome to the show. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm good, Luke, man. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm very glad to be speaking with you, and yeah, really excited to have this podcast episode today.
Yeah, likewise. I love the podcast, man. I'm glad to be on.
Awesome, cool. So, for anyone that isn't familiar with you, how would you describe your music and the whole Pogo project?
Well, I suppose the thing that everybody has kind of taken and started running with is just the whole concept of taking a film like Alice in Wonderland or Terminator and extracting all the sound effects that I can from the film and then using those sound effects as a kind of a sound palette. So instead of having an orchestra with violins and cellos or a band with drums and guitars, I use sounds of doors closing from a film or small bits of harmonics in the characters' voices to create a kind of a patchwork or a jigsaw puzzle of music.
Awesome. And so, one track, is it made entirely from sounds from that film, or do you add in, say, drums or other sounds from other places?
Well, I've done a number of tracks throughout the years that I have done tracks just using samples from the film. Skynet Symphonic is a mix of Terminator 2, and I actually make a point of opening the video with made entirely out of sounds from the film. And I've always liked that idea because it means that you're literally listening to just the movie, and I think that's a great thing that you can take to the internet, and it's very marketable in that sense. But in most of my tracks, actually, I will bring in my own samples or bring in, maybe a bass line or because truthfully, most people aren't going to listen to a bass and go, "Oh yes, that's the synth from Terminator." So there are things like that you can get away with.
Okay. Well, and when was it that you first started experimenting, or you got this idea to use sounds from a film?
Well, when I was about 6 years old or so, we had VHS back in those days, and I had Oliver, and I had The King and I had Mary Poppins, and I was into all of these kind of fruity musicals as a kid. I suppose I could thank my mum for that. And I kind of always hear these little sounds that stuck out to me a lot. They were just the way a certain chord was played or the way a certain voice was sung, and I'd actually rewind the tape over and over again just to hear it. Same thing with cassettes, because I used to record music from the radio a lot, and I'd always rewind the tape back to these bits that I really loved the sound of. And when I started making music around the age of maybe 13 or so with a computer, I thought, what if there was some way that you could actually make music using those sounds exclusively? If you like all of these sounds so much individually, then what would happen if you actually, wove them together? And I found other artists doing the same thing. I found Farben, I found Akifin, who were doing the same thing, but with sounds that they recorded from the radio. And Akifin, for example, he makes a whole song just using sounds that he's recorded from the radio tuner. And I was just absolutely blown away by how he could draw music from such different sources. He'd line up all the harmonics together and he'd create these chord structures, which just blew my mind. And I thought, right, yes, this does work, but I'm going to do this with my favorite films. I'm going to do this with The Matrix. I'm going to do this with Alice in Wonderland or Gladiator. That's going to be a new way to sort of explore a film and to celebrate it and immerse myself in it.
Okay. So this is really interesting. I'm wondering, so you imagine if you get a sound of, say, a door creaking or something like that, would you manipulate that sound to the point where it becomes, for example, a pad sound that you could use and make a chord out of it?
Well, you certainly could. I suppose if you ran you can run anything through a vocoder and I suppose bring harmonics in that way. But things like doors creaking, I'd use more for percussion. I actually haven't played with manipulation too much. I try not to use. I'm actually not really that interested in effects in general. Usually, obviously, you have your mastering and your mixing and your EQing and compression and all the necessities. But in terms of flanging and chorus and auto tuning and vocoding, I tend to leave all of that stuff alone.
Okay, so it's more focusing on just finding good source samples and then chopping them up.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. So when you choose a film to work with, how long would it normally take you to go through it and just collect a load of sounds that you might want to use in a track?
Well, I guess your average film is 2 hours, isn't it? So
yeah.
I don't know. I can probably get through a whole feature in easily a day. You do a few scans through. I remember the way I started was I'd sort of run through the whole film looking just for vocals, because you sort of have to change the mode that your ear is in. You have to listen to the voices and hear for those notes, because I find that when people speak, occasionally there's a linear harmonic. There's a note that they'll actually hit with their voice. And those are the things I'm looking for. Sometimes, I don't know how or why, but sometimes you'll get several of those in a sequence, and then you can actually extract a whole sentence and use it as a melody. It's happened a few times. Then I'll go through again and I'll look for sounds, and then I'll look for music. So really it's kind of 3 passes, and I'll probably spend maybe 2 or 3 days looking for sounds, and then maybe in general it probably takes me about 3 or 4 weeks to put together the whole song and the whole vid.
Okay. And do you use Ableton Live?
I do now. Yeah. I used to use FL Studio or Fruity Loops, which is the title that I'm glad they're starting to shrug off. I used FL Studio exclusively when I started out, and eventually I just found myself being a bit sick of the workflow. I didn't like how it was sort of forcing me to do things in blocks. Ableton is kind of the other end of the spectrum. It gives you a very organic workflow, such that it actually almost encourages you to really change your structure and lay things out in a very natural way, because you can change everything without having to create a new version of it. But what I don't like about Ableton is I think the piano roll is ghastly. I absolutely hate working with the piano roll, and I think having to set up a whole bunch of chains and instruments just so that I can get sounds into piano roll, that's what I don't like. FL Studio is very drag and drop in that sense, and so sometimes, a lot of the time, especially with something like Austin 1911, I'll actually create sections in FL Studio just because the step sequence in piano roll is so brilliant, and then I'll export those and bring them into Ableton so that I can structure it and master it, and so really it's kind of using both software to their strengths.
Right, I see. Because I've worked with Ableton for a long, long time, probably since 2001, and before that was Reason.
Yeah, it's changed a lot since then, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. But still very similar to how it used to be.
That's true, actually. Yeah. They've sort of added things on.
So what's really cool about Ableton is that you can actually drop in an MP4 or a movie file and chop it up, and it will create the movie. The screen moving will be there in the file. So is that the same with FL Studio? Is that how you used to make the videos for your tracks?
No, actually, I've always used an NLE to edit my videos, like Premiere or Final Cut. I started off with Vegas, which proved to be a disaster in the end. I found, anything over 3 or 4 minutes, the whole program just started crashing. So then I shifted over to Final Cut, which was very limited in terms of how many kinds of formats you can use. A bit restrictive in true Apple fashion. But then I moved over back to Premiere, and I discovered that Premiere was, I might be wrong about this, but I think it was designed or at least inspired by Final Cut or the Final Cut developers, because you can see many, many similar bits of workflow to Final Cut. So I've always used video editors to create my vids.
And you've never tried with Ableton?
No, I haven't, because MP4 files, you shouldn't edit with MP4. You should never edit with really any kind of compression that isn't an editing format. MP4 is really final delivery. There's a number of reasons. That's one of the reasons. Ableton, in my experience, hasn't been very stable bringing video files in. I think it's great for, having a video to work to, like when you need to score something or you need to do some sound design. But every time I've tried to actually edit or cut things up in terms of video in Ableton, it hasn't worked.
Right.
It's been the engine isn't designed for it, I don't think. So I'll always do the track in FL Studio and Ableton, and then I'll bring that over as a WAV file into Premiere, where the whole video engine just really kicks in.
Wow. Okay, that's really interesting. I mean, I've worked with editing videos using just iMovie, and I find it pretty time consuming.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it can be. I've never used iMovie actually. Is it any good?
No.
No.
It's good for basic stuff, but I imagine for the kind of stuff you want to do, you want to be able to work really quickly.
Yeah, because there's so many cuts going on, you really need software that can handle it. And I've actually often thought about trying out Avid at some point, but boy, every time I've tried it, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. It is, Avid is kind of what they use on an industry level. Final Cut as well, I think, for the Mac users, but I happen to know Star Wars was all edited on an Avid machine. It's essentially just an extremely robust editing package, but with that comes, I think a pretty steep learning curve.
Right. Okay. I was just wondering who some of your influences are musically. I mean, I know some people may say the Avalanches sound kind of similar to your music. Other people might say that DJ Shadow, for example, may have been an influence on you. I was just curious to know.
I've always loved the music by Prefuse 73. He does very, very glitchy but very intelligent kind of electronic hip-hop music, and I think he uses an MPC for all of it, an Akai MPC. And that in itself is impressive, let me tell you. But I'd say biggest influence is probably Acofin. I've taken a bit from Theo Parrish. I've taken a bit from Moomin, who does really nice deep house. I've never really listened to one or two artists exclusively. It's always just been more about the music and the mood that I'm in.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I was wondering if you'd be able to kind of take us through one of your tracks. I think Austin 1911.
Yeah.
All right, let's check it out.
Calm down.
Yeah, Austin 1911 was. I think that was Austin 1911 is this track that I made using sounds just from Red Dead Redemption, which is the video game on Xbox 360 and PS3. Exceptional video game. There's all these great licks when you walk around in the Old West. There's all these great guitar licks and banjos and stuff that just come in and go out every now and then. And so it was very easy to record those and work with them, and sounds of the horses galloping, sounds of the shoes walking through the sand and stuff like that, and the old revolver gun shots. And I took all of them and I pulled them into Fruity Loops, and I started. You never really know how a song's going to be structured when you start working on it. You're only thinking about that sound. You're only thinking about, what's the feeling of it. What's the core of it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I loved. That's what I loved about FL, is that I could just concentrate on, you know, little patterns and little these nuggets of music that I could then export into Ableton and structure. And also, it was one of the first tracks I made using an acoustic bass. There's this brilliant plugin called Trillion by Spectrasonics. I think it's about 30 or 40 gigs or something like that of just acoustic fingered bass, double bass, you know, picked, plucked, strummed, that sort of thing, slapped as well. And it sounds very, very believable. And so I made sure to use that for the bass in Austin 1911. I did all the drums myself using a whole bunch of samples. And yeah, I don't know what else I could say without getting boringly technical.
Well, what are some of the other plugins that you like to use generally, and maybe some of the plugins you used in Austin 1911, except for Trillion?
Well, most of my plugins come in at a mastering level. So for Reverb, I actually really love the Lexicon PCM collection, which I think is actually made by Lexicon. So, you know, there's a lot of confidence you can have there that it's going to sound good, and it sure does. I've also been playing with the Universal Audio plugins as well, UAD2. They are very special in that they create plugins that actually emulate the circuitry and the signal pathways of analog gear. So like a Fairchild compressor or a Millennium EQ, tape machines as well, Studer tape machines, Ampex tape machines, different kinds of tape. And the effects that you can get are very authentic. I used a lot of that in Austin. I actually ran all the tracks through a tape machine pass, and then the final thing through a tape machine pass. And I think I'm sure that people out there who've got the ears for it will be able to hear that it's definitely not just your average digital mix. That you can hear a little bit of wow and flutter that you get with that tape, and there's a little bit of that really nice crunchy tape compression, a bit of that fuzz on the top, and a little bit of saturation as well. There's all these beautiful characteristics about tape and the old tape machines that I think UAD have just really captured to a T. Excellent,
yeah. I haven't actually used their plugins, but I hear nothing but good things about them.
Yeah, well, you know, geez, it really it grabbed the wallet a bit, that's for sure. It's not cheap, man, but wow, you only need to listen to the audio demos and read the reviews, and you know that you're buying the real deal. I mean, Ampex and Studer, you know, all of these analog gear manufacturers, they actually endorse the plugins that UAD makes because they produce such an authentic sound.
That's interesting. I should definitely check them out, but probably at another time when I have enough money.
Yeah, it's very tempting. And sometimes I'll use Voxengo plugins as well. Gliss EQ I like because I don't know. It gives me what I need. It gives me a very detailed spectrum at the same time as a very adjustable EQ. So, but you know, you get Pro Q as well.
Yeah,
from FabFilter, which I think is great. Have you used Pro Q before?
Oh yeah, extensively, all the time.
Oh right. Yeah, that's I don't use that nearly enough as I should. It looks very, very good.
Yeah, and all of their plugins, like Pro L is a really, really good limiter.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Actually, the limiter I'm using at the moment is Elephant by Voxengo, which seems to be very, very transparent no matter how hard you drive it. But I have used Pro L as well on a few tracks, and that's, yeah, again, I think I need to use the FabFilter stuff more. It's very good.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to ask you, for those who don't know, Pogo actually lives in Manila, in the Philippines. So just wanted to talk about that a bit and ask you about what you're up to over there. So first of all, like, when did you go over there, and what was the reason that you decided to move over there?
Well, I've been living in Perth, West Australia for 8 years now. And I eventually, over the past year or so, I decided it's a beautiful place. It's very safe. It's very sunny. It really is a lovely place to live. But for what I wanted to do with my work and my career, it really wasn't supporting me. So my business partner had moved to Manila in the Philippines, and he said, "Wow, Nick, there's guys here who want to build a studio with us, and there's an incredible amount of talent here that really wants to work and sing and dance and make music videos and songs and albums." And I had to think about it for a few months because I'm really not. I never thought about living in Asia like that. But eventually I pulled the plug. I moved over to Manila in the Philippines. I've set up an apartment here, and we're about 3/4 of the way through finishing building our recording studio and film studio here in Manila, which is on Mabini Street. And so hopefully in a couple of months' time, everything will be up and running and operational, and I'll be very, very busy.
Right. Okay. So you and your business partner will be kind of managing the studio and recruiting singers and musicians, I suppose, to record tracks for you.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, truth be told, we're already doing that, Luke. Actually, we're signing on singers at the moment. We're recording a number of singles and shooting the music videos for them. It's just, for me, creatively, it's a great new avenue to break into, more traditional music and especially shooting as well. I've always loved video and photography and light, and this just gives me an opportunity to really break into the best of both worlds.
That's so awesome. Are you managing your own record label as well? Is that how you're going to release this music?
That's one of the initiatives, yeah. At the moment, actually, I'm just really releasing my stuff through iTunes and, Google Music and Amazon and that sort of thing. But the idea with The Breeze is definitely to start up a label, because with the singers we're signing on, we're working with, we're definitely going to be establishing albums, and there's going to be a lot of talent development. And so a label, I think, is going to be a very logical conclusion. Okay,
that's awesome. Well, I guess that's pretty much everything I wanted to ask you about today. I just wondered, in terms of your own music, do you have any upcoming releases that we can expect to hear soon?
Yeah, I've got a new song and video coming out at the moment with a singer here called John Shan. Some people might have seen him on the YouTube channel recently. He is this very, very talented little, I think he's 12 years old now. And he's got a great voice. He's slowly getting better at being on camera and, working with the camera and that sort of thing. And we've just finished this big shoot all around Manila over the course of a couple of weeks of shooting every day. And so I'm very, very proud of it, and I really can't wait to get it online.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear that. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this podcast. It's really been great and interesting speaking with you, and I wish you all the best of luck in Manila.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, it's my pleasure, Luke. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity, man.
Yeah, of course.
Dubstep, drum and bass, Neurohop, glitch hop, and other futuristic bass music. Brought to you by Zen Flux. Thank you for listening to the BassGorilla podcast.